games due to some injuries. We'll get into more of that later. I do want to go and apologize for how my head looks being so close to the screen. This was the only way that I could figure out how to record a video over me presenting this. So, without further ado, mindset of a competitor, a case study. All right, so one of the first topics that we discussed was how he picks people that he would play one-on-one with. This could be him growing up. This could be now. Said his mindset hadn't changed in the past 20 years. So, all right, so unlike some people who only want to play people that are either supremely better than them because they know they don't have a shot of winning, so losing becomes okay, or without playing somebody that's so much lower than theirs, so much lower skill than them, they have a really good shot of beating them, though they do have the ego hit if they end up losing that. This guy would like to actually play people of equal skill because it gives him like a current, just base of where he is. It also gives him things that he needs to work on to improve his game. Like I said, there's also like a 50-50 chance between losing and winning. It actually works out to where he's able to, able to process it a little bit better if he loses. Like, at least he got better because he's playing somebody that's on the same playing field as he is. He's more so motivated in playing one-on-one by, like, honing his craft and actually getting better at the sport. He doesn't really care for win or losing in that scenario. We'll get more so into winning or losing as a team a little bit later. All right, actually right now. So this guy's very outcome motivated. We sat and talked about goals for a pretty long period of time, probably 30 minutes. And he more so told me that he doesn't do any kind of performance goal setting. It's all outcome based and it's all long term. So basically feels like his season is almost a disaster if they don't win a conference championship and get an NCAA berth. But giving their record over the past couple of years, I think they won 7 games last year, he's setting himself up for failure. So we talked at length about how he can set up process goals for daily, like between practices, between lifts, daily, weekly, monthly, and like biannual and then annual, just to get him on a better track for being able to set goals. We also talked about how it was significantly harder to adhere to a set of goals if they're not on paper. I know Dr. Stadden is huge on writing goals down. I am as well. You have a reference and you also have accountability not only to the piece of paper, but inevitably somebody else is going to see that piece of paper. That is huge whenever it comes to like setting goals and trying to get better. All right, so I asked him about which of his 3 favorite stat lines. I like to ask all of our players this just to see where their mind's at. He's a guard, so I asked him about points scored, assists, or charges taken. And like most scoring point guards, he opted for the point scored. There's no real reason for this. I just like to ask to see what they're looking to do. It's kind of a cool tool to see whether they want to actually like share the ball or if they want like, I don't know, if they want to feed their ego with points. Let's see. He's also very motivated to do anything and everything he can to help his team win. That includes while he was injured for a 4-week period where he had a groin tear. He had, 3-4 games. I think it was 4 games that he missed. And he was absolutely locked into every second of the game, just providing little tidbits and instructions for people on the sideline. So he's definitely like a vocal leader within the team. He's got he's about the only vocal player that we have to where you can actually hear him talking over everybody else. Just constantly picking his teammates up. Even now that he's back to, he's probably at 85% playing right now. but he's still a vocal leader and telling people like, hey, you got the next one, like if they miss a shot, or it's all right, just shake it off. It's really powerful stuff whenever nobody else on the bench really is saying anything. It's just, I don't know, it's a psychological factor for me, just for the sake of, I don't know, improving the well-being of your team. All right, so we actually talked about goal setting, as I talked to you before. His major goals are to graduate on time, which is the first thing that came out of his mouth. Made me so proud. Winning a championship. Talking about winning our America East championship and going for an NCAA tournament bid, and to play as long as possible. He was trying to. I think he's trying after next year. He's trying to get into maybe Europe. I mean, everybody shoots for the NBA whenever you're playing college basketball, but his sights are probably going to be set on Europe come next year. He does feel as if outcome goals are the only thing that motivates him. I think that we could curb that thinking to where he's more so okay with meeting certain performance goals. Like, just because he doesn't get a win doesn't mean he doesn't get better that day. We do have goals inside of the weight room, and he tries to beat them every day. So we've got to find ways to actually institute that on the court, but we have to be able to find ways to not monetize, but you have to find ways to be able to actually quantify ways that you are getting better. Like, I guess we could do like shot percentage whenever you're doing stationary shooting, things like that. All right, so he had a labrum injury to his left shoulder. I think it was last season, so he had to sit out for, I think, all of the games except for 3 or 4. So he knows exactly what it takes to come back rehab-wise. He's been down this road before. He knows what the pain's going to feel like. He knows what it is to push too far, too fast. So now that he's going through, and he's still going through the rehab process of getting his groin back to 100%, but he's getting back into the rotation. He's playing limited minutes. Told me the hardest thing in the world was him actually sitting on the sidelines watching his teammates just be able to, I don't know, not being able to help them. Like, he helps them in more ways than he's ever going to know by being that vocal leader on the sidelines, but he actually wants to give his, I don't know, his body more so than his vocal cords to the game, to his team. He's motivated to just attack rehab, which he does. I mean, he's in the training room 2-3 hours a day, just to play and contribute. Like, he wants to get back to 100% as soon as possible. Yeah, he said the hardest part of rehab was watching practice on the bike, and I can absolutely understand that, as I had to watch Alex Kelly from LR last year do that same exact thing on the bike while his teammates were practicing. He was stuck doing intervals and exercise on the sidelines, and that absolutely crushed him too. So I think that's one of the reasons that he's motivated like no other to get back to play. All right, so we talked about stress relief and also how stress can actually be a determinant for injury, or not a determinant, but like a causality for injury. He absolutely believed that whenever you're stressed out, as in, like, we're in finals week right now, we're in finals 3 weeks because they do it in 3 weeks here, but as we're into finals season, he's starting to feel like he's a little bit more tense. He hasn't noticed his vision narrowing yet. I guess he said that he really doesn't as he gets into the moment, like into the games, like he doesn't really notice it. But that might be a subconscious thing that you just don't feel. We talked about like outlets for stress, asked him what kind of stuff he does for stress. The only thing he does is basketball related stuff. So he'll go out on the court, shoot, ball handling drills. He'll just use drills to actually like help him cope. but he just uses his frustration and just stress as a more so a fuel for that workout than anything else. So once he's expended the fuel, his stress is alleviated to some degree, and he can go on about his day. I actually did ask him about what it's like to try to use basketball as a stress reliever and then get out onto the court and you start missing shots and then you feel like your game is going away along with all the stress. And he's just like, it's part of it. Like, I have to be able to shoot through slumps. So that made me think that he has a lot of coping ability. He has the ability to just be resilient whenever it comes to missing shots, like knowing that he's made a million of these, and just because he's missed 3 or 4 in a row doesn't mean that that's indicative of where he's at right now. That kind of gave me hope that most competitors are like this. Let's see. All right, so now we're on to anxiety. Let me paint a picture that I painted for him and just ask him how he would respond in a situation. All right, so it's 0.01 seconds left on the clock. Your team's down by 1. It's the not the NCAA championships, but the conference championship. You have a front end of a 1-1. You can either send your team home or you can send them on to the NCAA tournament if you make one free throw and then another. I asked him, I tried to put him into kind of that space to where I gave him a second to close his eyes and actually visualize what that would feel like. He basically just said I would just talk to myself, say, hey, you got it. Let's get this W. Step up to the line, make a free throw, make another one, and go celebrate in the locker room. So he has absolutely zero anxiety. I know he's not in that situation, but I don't know if he would use the anxiety as like a motivation to achieve and go beyond and actually make both of the free throws. But one thing that resounded throughout the whole conversation that we had, which was a little over an hour, was using positive self-talk. He believes just in telling himself, you got the next one, no matter how many next ones he has to say, it's always the next one's going to be good. He just believes that having a positive mindset will actually just absolutely enhance the way that he's able to play the game. If he starts getting into his own head, he'll actually take a second and just kind of sort it out underneath his breath. I've seen him do it a couple of times, and it's kind of cool to watch. Okay, so that's it. I do want to just follow up with some leadership stuff. He's an absolute leader on the team, being a junior, being in that locker room with them, only winning 7 games last year. He knows that he does not want to see that happen again, so he's doing everything in his power to just crush the season, and they have so far. But one thing that our coaching staff is huge on is players on the bench being almost like the key to the game. Having players with energy on the sidelines, being able to talk to the actual players in the game, being able to say, hey, it's all right, Joe, the next one's going to go in, is huge. Just because you're dealing with a team that won 7 games last year, the confidence isn't quite there. Even though we have had some success this year, confidence isn't quite there. But they're doing everything in their power, including this guy, to absolutely kind of erase that lack of confidence that they had last year. Thank you guys for watching this presentation.